Why is it that in a world where we teach kindness, reward often finds cruelty? Why do those who manipulate dominate? Why do those who reflect get rejected? Why does it seem that the more human you are, the more the world turns cold? The Greek philosopher Plato, more than 2,000 years ago, saw this contradiction. In his world, as in ours, virtue was not the ladder to power, but often the reason for exile. And so, he wrote of shadows, illusions, and the tragic truth. The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. You're not losing because you're weak, you're losing because the game wasn't made for you. Let's begin there. There's a quiet agony known only to those who remain good in a world that rewards spectacle. The child who shares but is forgotten, the employee who stays honest but is never promoted, the lover who gives everything and is left questioning their worth. Plato saw this not as a failure of individuals, but of the entire moral framework we construct as a society. In the Republic, he introduces a hypothetical man, Gyges, who discovers a ring of invisibility. Free from consequence, Gyges seduces the queen, murders the king, and seizes power. And then Plato asks, if a man could act unjustly with no fear of being caught, would he still choose to be good? The silence that follows is not hypothetical. It is the echo of every good person who has watched the wicked rise, unpunished. In Plato's metaphor of the allegory of the cave, men are shackled, facing shadows on a wall. They mistake those shadows for reality. The philosopher escapes, sees truth, but when he returns to free the others, they mock him. Some would even kill him. This, Plato said, is the tragedy of enlightenment. In the modern world, shadows take new forms: social media filters, corporate language, faux virtue. And so the performance of morality replaces actual morality. They see only their own shadows or the shadows of one another. Plato. The kind person isn't loud enough. The thoughtful one isn't fast enough. The honest one doesn't play the game. Herein lies the paradox. The narcissist thrives not in spite of their delusion, but because of it. While the empath asks, "Am I wrong?" the narcissist declares, "I am right." Confidence becomes indistinguishable from competence. And Plato, in Book 8 of the Republic, saw the seeds of this clearly. He warned of a democracy so obsessed with freedom and flattery that eventually the most shameless demagogue would rise as tyrant. The excess of liberty, whether in states or individuals, seems only to pass into excess of slavery. In our time, this slavery wears a smile. It praises ego, it demands certainty. The good person, with their self-doubt, their inner depth, becomes a liability. And what happens to the good soul in such a world? Slowly, they begin to fold inward. They wonder, is there something wrong with me? They water the garden, yet the fruit goes to thieves. They speak truth, yet liars take the stage. Plato was deeply concerned with the soul, not as some spiritual abstraction, but as a vessel of harmony. And injustice, he believed, was not just a societal flaw, it was a sickness of the soul. Injustice is a kind of civil war in the soul, a rebellion of one part against the whole. So when the good suffer and the unjust succeed, it is not merely unfair. It is dissonance, a spiritual disfiguring of what should be beautiful. We live in a reversed world, a world where cruelty is mistaken for strength, where silence is mistaken for weakness, and those who strive for harmony live in disharmony. But Plato reminds us, the soul takes nothing with her to the next world but her education and her training. The good do not lose in the grandest sense. They lose in this world, because this world, as it stands, is not ruled by philosophers, it is ruled by shadows. So what do we do in a world ruled by shadows? Let's go deeper into Plato's vision for a just soul and a just society. Because the question isn't just how to survive in a broken world. It's whether the good can still win without becoming what they hate. And if not in this world, then how do we begin building a new one? The answer was never to become ruthless, but to become wise. Up until now, we've explored how Plato diagnosed this upside-down morality, a world where narcissists are crowned and empaths are crucified. We've seen how the soul fractures in a maze of illusions, how those who carry virtue often walk alone, misunderstood, unseen. But this is not the end of the journey, because Plato didn't only describe the fall, he offered a way out, a way to realign the soul, a way to step out of the cave, a way to begin, even quietly, to rebuild the world from the inside out. Plato believed that a just world begins with a just soul. In the Republic, he compares the human soul to a city-state. It has three parts: the appetitive, desires, cravings; the spirited, courage, willpower; the rational, reason, truth-seeking. Most people live in chaos because these parts war within them. The appetites want power, the spirit wants victory, but the reason wants wisdom. A good person, Plato said, is not one who acts good to please others, but one who brings harmony within. Justice in the soul is like health in the body. This is the first solution: to stop letting a sick world define your worth, and to begin governing yourself like a wise ruler governs a city. But if the rational soul leads to wisdom, why does the world silence the wise? Plato wrestled with this too. In Apology, he writes of Socrates, his mentor, a man condemned to death for asking too many questions. Socrates was called the gadfly of Athens, a nuisance. He forced people to look inward, to question their illusions. I know that I know nothing, Socrates. And that kind of humility terrifies the proud, so the world kills its teachers. The question, then, is not whether the good will suffer, but whether they can endure it without becoming bitter. Plato's answer? Yes, but not alone. In Book 7 of the Republic, Plato gives us the image of the philosopher king, a ruler not chosen for charm, but for depth. He says, "Until philosophers rule as kings, cities will have no rest from evils." But this isn't just a political statement, it's personal, because each of us is a city of conflict. And if you don't crown your inner philosopher, you'll be ruled by impulse, ego, and fear. The world doesn't need more charm, it needs character. And your quiet wisdom, your restraint, your depth, they matter. Not because the world will reward them, but because they are how you stay whole in a fractured world. Power today looks like dominance, but Plato warns that power without virtue is like a ship without a captain. In Gorgias, he says, "Doing injustice is worse than suffering it." Think about that. We often pity the kind person who is hurt, but Plato pities the abuser more, because when you do harm, you rot your own soul. You become a tyrant to others and to yourself. So no, good people don't lose. They just lose in a system designed to reward the wrong kind of power. But true power, the kind that gives peace at night and clarity in the mirror, that still belongs to you. So how do you survive as a good person in a crooked world? Plato gives us no easy answers, but he gives us a path. Withdraw from the noise. The just person does not need an audience to act justly. Find your equals. Plato believed in the academy, a place where thinkers gathered. You are not alone. Find the others. Align with the good. Above even truth, Plato placed the form of the good. Not religious dogma, not social approval, but the pure good beyond all appearances. And finally, accept suffering without surrender. The just person may be mocked, exiled, even killed, but their soul remains intact. That's the paradox. You may feel like you're losing, but by staying good in a world that isn't, you're actually preserving what little is left of real humanity. If you've been asking, why am I losing? Perhaps the deeper question is, what is worth winning, and what is worth becoming? Plato reminds us that while society may reward shadows, the soul remembers the light. And in the end, it is not the loudest voice or the richest man who wins, but the one who, through it all, refused to become what he despised. So stay kind, stay thinking, stay you. Because you are not losing, you are just not playing their game. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who's been quietly struggling to stay true to themselves. Drop a comment below. What truth are you still holding on to? Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of clarity in the chaos. Let's build a community of people who choose the light, even when the world prefers shadows.